On today's Minute of the Apes, we're going to get our favorite song, This Dish is on Fire.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape! Exercise with an ape maker, human down. Then talks. Talking with a divine bound. We are determined to know what the apes want. War or peace? The only good human is a dead human!
And if it is man's destiny one day to be dominated, then, oh, please, God, let him be dominated by such as you.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, a daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies 1 minute at a time, and Sean sings his top hits of all time.
Yes, on my Kids Bops version of what's going on, yeah.
God, you know, there is no bigger beatdown than having a child, and you actually do have to listen to
Did you have to listen to Kids Bops?
Occasionally, but she was pretty cool because since I love music so much, she wanted the real versions, but there would be those moments where a friend of hers has played a Kid Bop version. You get in, it's just like, oh.
I did.
My God.
There's a comedian, I can't remember who, was talking about he wanted to introduce his kids to Weird Al first and hear all the parodies so that when they heard the real songs, they go, why are these guys making a parody of Weird Al stuff?
That's pretty funny.
I like that, yeah. That's great.
Having kids sucks. I'm kidding, Abby. I'm kidding.
And export clips, make a ringtone for Todd.
I love my child. I don't love anyone else's, but I love my child.
All right.
Minute 12. Sean, tell us what's going on.
All right, we start minute 12 with a flaming dish and ends with McDonald breaking up the guards, beating on Otto.
A flaming dish.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes, she is.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, let's take a listen to minute 12 of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
No. And I told them to condition him to fire.
Attention. The labor demonstration on the South Plaza will be terminated in 5 minutes. Repeat. The labor demonstration on the South Plaza will be terminated in 5 minutes. Failure to comply with this order can result in a 1-year suspension of your right to bargain collectively.
What's his job? Forget it. He's a messenger.
For the governor, so get!
Hey, you don't what the... Stop this at once, all of you!
Yes, sir, Mr. McDonald. I saw what you were doing. Now sedate the animal and get him out of here.
As minute 12, we have a courtyard worth of gorillas, chimpanzees, and at least one orangutan, Milo, and a plant's worth of humans.
All right, back to the flaming dish.
Okay, so...
And because I see Richard's got his Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, since that's an undercurrent of the show, I'm gonna work on mine for
My
the day
guild
too.
started a raid. I can just let it autoplay. That's what I'm gonna do, yeah.
I mean...
Sorry.
No need to be sorry.
They have to know that these apes might get freaked out by all of a sudden flaming pile of food next to them.
His line was hard to hear because it was a voiceover, but he does say, and I told him to condition him to fire.
Yeah, and so...
But that's so obvious as he sets a fire that it's not going to go
Yeah,
well.
the condition didn't work.
So let's talk about the server. They still have human servers or cooks, right?
Yeah.
He's obviously got a small kind of flame that he's got a piece of meat on that he's pouring some liquid over that's going to cause a little bit of steam, and that's the action of the moment. But it will be a little bit of the flame that kind of freaks the server ape that was just tipped with raisins out. I don't know what's happening with the server, but that is a bad jacket. They took a brown jacket and and his name is the captain. Like
the captain.
Whoever the server is,
like
he's
porn.
the captain. And he's got the circus sleeve on, right? This giant little rope that comes off that's got multiple... I mean, I guess they're at a seafood restaurant. Is that where we're supposed to go with this?
Captain D's?
The other thing that kind of bothered me about this moment is when we move to the table that the flame is on, we have two gentlemen who I think might have supposed to have been the tycoons. Mm-hmm. But gentleman number 2, the one who's talking, he did not get the memo to wear all black like everybody else in the restaurant. He's like one of like 3 patrons wearing something other than all black.
Maybe that means he's richer than everybody else. He can afford color.
Maybe. It stood out to me because everybody in this restaurant, in the same way the salon, everybody was wearing white, except for Armando's leather jacket. Everybody here is wearing black. That's the theme of this restaurant. I just really, these stark color contrasts or colors are just so... Man, I hate the future. I know we talked about...
Very monotone.
We talked about Blade Runner actually getting it right in terms of the commercialism. But I just... This 1972 idea of the future being sterile is just... I can't...
it's funny because... And I'm going to touch into just... I have to very cursory touch into things that happen in the week, but from what we've seen prior to and what we're going to see in this week, it seems that everybody always wants to talk about their world. It's always that everything anybody talks about is almost a definition of the world. We're going to address the slave harshly. We're going to talk about the preconditioning
It's as if all we did was sit around and talk about politics and world economics. For some reason.
Sean. Yeah, that is our world today. But it's
and comic books.
I long for. Here's the future, and there are normal conversations occurring around them. Instead of, I told them to condition him to fire. When it said it, I thought, okay, first off, if I bring my dog around fire, my dog runs because it's hot. They don't have the intelligence to know that they are okay in that manner. I don't know.
So I just got a book, a new Atomic Robo book, but it came with it looks like it was made by Dr. Dinosaur, and it's his field guide to time travel. Mm-hmm. And he talks about going into the future is probably the worst thing you can do because you will not understand anything that's going on in there. Right. So, and the farther you go into the future, the more like an idiot you're going to look like, because go a year into get offline for a week and then come back online and look at the memes that are there, and you get on the tail end of one, you don't know what they're talking about. But you go into the future year, that's a whole year's worth of information that you know nothing about that you're going to have to catch up on just to find out what's going on now.
Right.
Make that 10 years. You've got 10 years of stuff you got to figure out what's going on just to go figure out what's going on now. So if they're talking about what's going on, it's going to make no sense to us. They're going to talk about, well, the space pope decided to excommunicate Mars for something. I mean, none of it's going to make any sense to us because we have no point of reference for it.
So what you're saying is Dane's crappy future dialogue is actually relevant because it wouldn't be normal dialogue anyway?
No,
yeah.
So we can, okay, it's stiff and awkward because that's just where the future is.
But at the same time, you get that they felt desperately they needed to interject.
Tell us how the world is.
How things have changed since the last one. And you do need that. However, when I begin to see, and I know that's Roddy McDowall. If I've watched these movies, I know that's him when I see him off the top. But suddenly when I see Nazis running along and I hear, disembodied voice saying there's a fight in sector whatever, I know the world has changed.
So you want to jump outside the restaurant and go to the next scene?
Well, hang on. Whenever this,
I
see what you're saying.
I was going to finish the restaurant before moving outside.
I'm just talking. I'm using that as an example of how I've already been defined. The world has changed by those things I saw in the first 10 minutes. I don't need this preponderance of constantly telling me again that you've conditioned the apes. I know this is only 12 minutes into it, but it just feels like once you've said it, maybe reinforced it once, I don't need to hear it again.
Think of it like The Expanse, where they drop you into the world without giving you any heads up. People are speaking different languages all mixed together, and they're not translating it for you. You're having to figure out what they're talking about themselves. People are really tall and can't go to Earth. They're not telling you why. You have to figure out, they hang a guy on a hook because he lives on outer space.
That is confusing, but that's kind of the fun
you figure
of
it out as you go along. You're cracking the code.
Pulling what I need to from it. It just seems very ham-fisted that it's at every step of the way, here's another.
It's also the movie trope and TV trope of every time you turn on a television or radio, it's giving you the information you need at exactly that moment. You turn on TV, breaking news, apartment fire. Oh, my apartment's on fire.
Which somebody needs to make a movie in the sci-fi setting like Scream was to horror, to where you almost know
those
that.
Tropes are there.
Yeah, the tropes are there, and you just try. Hey, I don't understand. Just turn on the TV.
They turn on the TV, and it's like a commercial. It's like it's a commercial. Just wait, and it's another commercial. No, then they just went to commercial. I'm sorry, they'll be back in like 2 minutes, and like 2 minutes later. All right, we'll be back in a minute to tell you what you can find out about
Right.
your fridges.
All right, you had something to say, and Sean and I went off in our.
No, I was gonna comment on the couple of things that stood out in addition to this moment of outside of the bad voiceover. The table that they're at, they have the fish or the piece of meat that's kind of being set on fire or being poured over with stuff that causes the small flame. Mm-hmm. On the table itself, they just have one giant orange and one giant lemon.
Yeah,
and I'm like, who eats a fucking entire orange or lemon at lunch? Like just a whole one that's not even cut up yet. I assume it's meant to be like sprinkled over the meat or cut sliced or something, but it's just so like, what do we got? We got an orange and a lemon. Just put it on the table. And they're obnoxiously large.
right.
Nothing else is being served at this particular table. So when the waiter ape freaks out and runs off, what I also found really funny was Mrs. Riley and Bo are leaving the restaurant, and they are nonplussed by this entire commotion.
Fire,
They're just casually walking as this ape is freaking out. And it's not until they get to Armando and Caesar that are at the door that are watching the scene that Mrs. Riley just kind of turned around and looks, goes, "Oh, is something happening behind me?"
Well, I thought if you look in the whole restaurant, I think a number of people, especially kind of the people sitting off to the left, as Ape freaks out, I know if that happens and I'm out, you're like, "Oh my God,
What is that? Yeah.
okay." They're just like, "Hey, it's another ape."
Yeah,
Maybe
it's just a freak out
maybe
moment.
that's it. Maybe they're all used to the apes losing their shit.
So there was a really, really nice shot over the captain's shoulder as he is grabbing the server ape to pull him back, and you see just absolute fear in the eyes of the server ape being pulled away. And it's shot a little bit over his shoulder with Armando and Caesar in the shot kind of center, but you just see this look of fear as this young ape just kind of looks up at the captain as being dragged back.
I do think, to that point, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that's been given by the apes in reaction. Even in those early scenes as we train things, I think their looks and how they behave, they're nailing a lot of this. They're getting that really right. And I agree with you with that look in this actor's eyes to truly understand they have to go very wide for it to convey past the makeup.
And it's shot
Right.
slightly above him, so it does look like he's tipping his head back in complete and total fear.
Right.
And then we get a great moment with
Roddy
Caesar
working that mask?
and like puffing his
Right.
nose out, his nostrils out a few times, like he's smelling the fire, he's smelling the fear, he's angry, and then he reaches up and grabs Armando, and Armando grabs him by the arms and pull him back. I then go back on this idea that I have no idea what Armando and Caesar are doing.
Yeah.
Armando is not the one holding flyers, and occasionally Caesar has flyers. Mm-hmm. But they walk into this restaurant with no flyers to give out or anything whatsoever.
And also, can you imagine you're at a restaurant, you're at a Mario's or whatever, you're sitting there, and somebody just walks in and starts handing out flyers? No.
Right.
What business is going to let somebody come in and just disturb their customers with flyers?
That's usually one where you shoot off. And that would have been nice if somebody said, "You're not welcome here." No.
Right.
And then have them leave instead of just witness everything. I do know that we're building something for Caesar.
Right.
That we're letting him see the travesties that he only might have suspected exist.
So then we cut to outside. The awkward part about the outside moment is we're not following anybody outside to the protest. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to allow the loudspeaker be our connection between the restaurant and the outside. The labor demonstration is in the South Plaza, will be terminated in 5 minutes. Repeat, the labor demonstration on the South Plaza will be terminated in 5 minutes.
Which
Failure to
is some
comply
harsh
with this
language.
order can result in a 1-year suspension of your right to bargain collectively. So we're establishing labor unions as being relevant at this moment. We have signs that say unfair to waiters, slaves or scabs, hire men not beasts, go human not ape. So we're now taking our concept of servant apes and slave apes, and we're now compounding the fact that there are workers that are upset over
They're
taking my jobs.
And I think that's an interesting thing to put in there. They would be the ones that I would understand their absolute anger towards the apes.
Right.
Whereas the people that are tycoons, I could see how they'd be,
We need
They want
more
their
of these.
servants. Yeah.
We need more cheap labor.
That's right. I got cheap labor. I'm making more than that money because that's the conversation the
conflict.
tycoons should be having is, oh my God, do you realize how much more money I'm making once I put the apes in place to do the labor?
Good point. Yeah,
I mean,
that would be relevant.
those kind of things would say, and they would
that would
define
set
it
up
just
the
as
next
much.
moment at what's happening outside.
And I find myself even with this movie, so I talk about how much I like Escape, and Escape felt like it was that movie that needed 3 more months of pre-production and 1 more revision to just nail out all on things, and already